Raw goods went north. Finished goods came back. At a markup, of course. Southern planters made their money growing cotton. Northern factory owners made theirs selling it back, now conveniently shirt-shaped. It was a cozy arrangement, profitable, efficient, and propped up by morally questionable labor practices. And then the federal government stepped in and started changing the tariffs. In 1828, Congress passed a tariff so high it made imported goods nearly 50% more expensive. Northern factory owners, now free from competition with European goods, reacted by immediately raising their prices. The South called it the Tariff of Abominations. Forced to buy the same goods at inflated prices, they watched their money quietly relocate to northern banks. Vice President John C. Calhoun, serving under John Quincy Adams and soon under Andrew Jackson, began quietly drafting the legal blueprint for a state-level revolt. It was called the South Carolina Exposition and Protest, and it laid out a bold idea that states didn't have to obey federal laws they believed were unconstitutional. According to Calhoun, the Constitution wasn't a binding national contract. It was a compact between sovereign states, and if one of those states thought that Congress had overstepped, it could simply opt out. Calhoun didn't sign it, of course. The exposition was adopted anonymously by the South Carolina legislature in late 1828. Nullification was now part of the conversation, and Calhoun had made it sound vaguely constitutional. In 1832, in an attempt to appease the South, Congress passed a new tariff. Duties were lowered, but not by much, and certainly not enough to satisfy South Carolina. That fall, South Carolina called a state convention and passed the Ordinance of Nullification, declaring the tariffs of 1828 and 1832 null and void. They gave Washington a deadline: back down by February 1st, or South Carolina would stop enforcing the tariffs. To drive their message home, they started raising a militia. By 1832, Jackson and Calhoun stood on opposite sides of a constitutional crisis. Calhoun had resigned the vice presidency and taken up a seat in the Senate, where he could defend nullification from the floor. When South Carolina nullified the tariffs, Jackson saw it as a direct threat to the Union. He responded with the Force Bill, warning that federal law would be enforced with troops if necessary. With tensions high and the threat of violence looming, Congress turned to Henry Clay, the great compromiser. In early 1833, he introduced a new tariff that would gradually reduce rates over the next decade. It gave both sides a way out. Jackson signed it. South Carolina, in turn, repealed the Ordinance of Nullification. Then, in one final act of defiance, the state voted to nullify the Force Bill, a symbolic gesture meant to save face, even as they backed down. South Carolina has stepped back, but only after claiming the right to defy the federal government. Calhoun's theory of nullification didn't stop at tariffs. Over time, it would harden into something more dangerous: the belief that a state could leave the Union entirely.